Well, hello there. It's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. We all know what that means. Another riveting episode of Behind Breaking Bond. I'm Randy Wallace. Joining me is
Hey, Handy Con, Director of Victim Services Crime Center. I guess my watch is like a minute too slow, so let me get it ready to do this live on the air. Well, look, Ma, I did it. There, now, oh, we're live.
Yes,
Okay,
we are. We
good.
are live. So,
So,
the first thing we want to do today is we want to update last week's Breaking Bond, Mr. Menifee.
Mr. Menifee, Dominique Menifee, who's charged with murder of a young mother whose young child was in the back seat of the car, and he pulled up and just allegedly shot and killed her. So he's been on a run now, technically, for almost a month and a half or so.
Yeah.
But what made his case to me stand out, and I got to know Shanika's mother, and you met her.
Real
last
nice
week.
lady. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she's just in a state of shock. So the guy's on parole. Menifee's on parole for aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. That's a gun. So while on parole, he gets charged with another felony, a possession, another drug case. So he's on parole for a violent felony, charged with another felony, and they give him a PR get out of jail free card, which made absolutely no sense.
And that was a magistrate.
Was a magistrate who
Right.
basically opened the door and say, come back, which he didn't come back.
And you raised a good issue last week when we did it. You would think that common sense would tell you, leave him in jail long enough to see what the parole board
this
wants to
case
do.
brings up a classic example, and this is not the first case I've seen on. It's the first case that I've seen that's basically resulted in the murder of somebody else that was given a PR bond. So the parole board doesn't know that their, quote, client was charged with a felony. They find out after the fact, 5 days later, and they issued the parole warrant, which is the most powerful warrant in the state because it's a blue warrant, no bond warrant. Coincidentally, or ironically, the day they issued the warrant was the day that he allegedly committed the murder.
Obviously, one of those that it should have never happened. Right.
From my position is, and that's where we're going to have to look into, is there something we need to do legislatively? So when someone's on parole, especially for a violent offense, getting a PR bond for another felony, I don't know how you justify it.
Right.
The only way you can justify it is if the courts say, well, we reached out to the parole board and they plan on taking no action.
Right.
They're going to let the case.
But in this situation, they never let anything
had
happen.
that.
Right.
And they issued the warrant before any murder took place.
Right.
Which tells you if they had known about this immediately, that Menifee doesn't get out of jail.
Right.
And this mother is alive today. I'll argue that till the day the earth, whatever.
Well, and you of all people know that probably 9 times out of 10, the parole board, if they're not going to put somebody back in prison, they're going to yank them for put them behind bars for 30 days or so, right? To kind
At
of.
the very least, this warrant would have kept him in custody when that date came where these two forces, collided.
Right.
That resulted in Shanika's death. That I can unequivocally tell you that would not have happened because they wouldn't have cut him loose that much. And if so, then there would have been some sort of cash bond on it. So I'm going to talk to elected officials and see what can be done so this doesn't happen to another family.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Right. And Menifee is behind bars. He was arrested yesterday by the marshal's office, I believe, right?
Yes, he was taken into custody, and now I'm trying to assure family members that he can't get a bond because the parole warrant.
Who knows?
Right. He can get a bond, but the parole warrant isn't going to go away.
Right.
And that's no bond warrant. So you can give him whatever bond you want. He just can't get out.
One of the things that we want to talk about today, and you've been really kind of taking an in-depth look at guns on school campuses.
I started noticing this at the beginning of the year. I started seeing a lot of possession of prohibited weapon charges filed. And of course, that intrigues me. I want to know a little bit more about it.
Sure.
And I started seeing a lot of cases involving having guns in schools. And I noticed that and I started keeping track of the charges. And so in this file, which we do still keep files, because you and I still keep stuff like that. And you can see
we write on paper.
We still write chicken scratch on this that no one else can decipher, as Chandler tried to decipher one of my words. And I just started, every time I saw a case of possession of prohibited weapon or carrying a weapon on a school grounds, I printed out. And so right now, we've documented 28 known cases. And I say that known because when we were talking earlier, and Shannon, you brought up the point, was these are cases that are charged as an adult.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's 28 adults that were charged with possession of a weapon on school property since the beginning of this year.
You think that's almost two plus a month?
Yeah.
I've never seen, I don't know what it was like in the previous years, because I don't know if anyone's ever kept track of this. I don't think anybody is, because I've never seen anything like this. But it has to make you wonder what in the heck is going on here. And a majority of those that are charged with these are students. We've had one teacher, we had a janitor, we included college campuses. For example, there's several charges on a TSU campus. There was one, Fortis College, which I believe is a barber beauty college as well. Yeah. But the rest of these, they're all over Harris County. There's a couple elementary schools, which is really disturbing.
Yes.
But these are high schools. They range from Klein to Spring ISD to A-Leaf to HISD to Spring Branch. They're all over the place.
And again, these are instances where they were caught. The students were caught. And we don't know how many students had guns that are minors, because that's not public information. We can't get records on juveniles that were arrested with a gun in school.
No, I mean, even if it's reported, you'll know that there was an incident, but it's not going to show up as criminal. So this guy Friday, this was the 28th known case. Guy Friday, I'm not going to mention his name, but this happened at A-Leaf Taylor High School, and this was November 10th. So at A-Leaf Taylor, he was caught with a firearm on school grounds. He was found possessing a firearm while engaging in a physical altercation with the assistant principal. So he and his assistant principal are getting into it, and they finally, I guess they got him, whatever, they searched his backpack.
They had a gun.
There's a loaded weapon in the backpack. He's now in custody. It's a $5,000 bond, which he hasn't made. I don't doubt that eventually he'll make it, because the other interesting thing is, of the 28 cases, only 7 remain in jail.
The majority are out on bond.
The majority are either out on a cash bond, and believe it or not, there's 6 PR get out of jail free cards.
Now that's a pretty serious offense to be found with a gun on a school.
In this day and age, everybody's talking about guns in schools. What are we going to do about it? Everybody. And here, no one wants to talk. I've not seen a conversation, except for the one we're having right now, involving known cases of defendants, mostly students, bringing guns on the school campuses. It's a hard thing to talk about, but I do believe you're going to have some sort of town hall meeting, come to Jesus meeting, whatever, because there's something going. We're not even done with the year yet.
Right. And let's not remember what happened in Santa Fe. I mean, we see these awful situations where students, teachers are killed in school shootings.
So here's a guy right here, and this was one of the elementaries, and this was at Gregg Elementary School. And this is a scary situation because evidently there must have been some sort of police. This guy was running away from law enforcement in a car. They get out of the car, they start running. He jumps over the fence of the school. He bails out. He jumps into the school. So now you're on school grounds on an elementary school. He's trying to hide from law enforcement that are chasing after him. He's got a gun. He's got a gun.
Well, I mean, what do you think that something should be done about giving a personal recognizance bond to someone that's caught with a gun on school property?
I think you're going to have to set the line somewhere. Here's my greatest fear, Randy, is, all right, so we're like, oh, and so what do you do with these cases? What do you do? And then what do you do with students who are, I mean, what do? Do you keep them locked up? Okay, you can talk that, until they face the music. Or in this case, as there's 21 of these out.
Right.
19 technically because the student's out. What would happen, hypothetically, if they went back to school with the gun and started shooting?
Right.
And you had casualties. Everybody would be up in arms, right? You had them, right?
Yeah.
You and I would be saying,
Yeah, sure.
you had them, and you let them go, and now you've got students and faculty that are, so you're rolling the dice, and you're praying. So far, luckily, it hasn't happened, but it's a loaded dice to
Right.
me.
I mean, in every one of these cases, there's a reason that they took the gun to school, right? I mean, it's like they were upset at another student. They were upset at
There was
the teacher. Right. Yeah. You're not just out of the blue decide, well, I'll take a gun to school today.
You have to know you have a weapon, a firearm in your possession.
Right.
You have to know that. And I don't see how and why you have that, in your possession is just, so here's this one out of Spring Woods, got a $50,000 PR bond. That's that's a significant PR bond on this as well. And
now, how can it be a 50,000? What exactly does
bond
that
was
mean?
set at 50,000,
but then it was reduced to
you were allowed to make a PR bond.
And that's something that we've really noticed a lot in the last few weeks, where you have a magistrate giving a PR bond.
A majority of the cases that I've seen are being released by a magistrate.
And no one that's elected, no one that really
this one that was on, again, this one just happened November 7th. So we had one November 7th and November 10th. And this is in the Aldine School District. This guy had a gun on a school bus. He had the gun on the school bus, and he's putting pictures on social media
of him with the gun.
With the gun, and that stuff doesn't stay, private for long.
Right.
Word gets out, and you had students that came to the principal because they were scared to go to school.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a guy on a school bus with a gun.
Yeah.
Who's posting pictures of it. We've seen these scenarios, time and time again. So he gets, the principal finds out about it, gets it taken care of, gets him charged. He's on a $5,000 bond. He's out. So this is just two. So November 7th, November 10th, is two last week so far on this. And so some of the schools have multiple cases, but like I said, it's all over here. And so I think as a state, we're doing this here at Crime Stoppers. We're just because someone asked me, why are you doing this? I said, I just find it interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's worthy of keeping track of. It's not, I just take them out, print them, and eventually I add the stuff up. But if we have 28 in Harris County, how many are in Fort Bend?
Right, and all the surrounding counties.
How many are in the entire state?
Right.
So,
and how many are, well, and I always look at these things like, okay, this was what, 23. You've got to wonder, okay, how many people was on a campus, school campus with a gun and didn't get caught? How many of are juveniles? And so there's no public record of it.
So we're saying we're being very, we're checking everybody, but this guy had a gun in his backpack.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you walked in the school, you had it. So there's no, if you had metal detectors or you had something, something didn't go right.
Right.
So you're, again, somebody that's willing to have an altercation with a authority figure such as a principal. What would have happened if he had gotten the gun out of his backpack? Then what?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, well, we got him before something happened. Yeah, you did. You got lucky this time. But what's going to happen with that one case? And that's, I think it's got to strike fear. And that's why you've got to find out what's going on with young people these days.
And I'll tell you, you're going to keep track of all these, and
I'm gonna keep track, and I'm gonna make some suggestions to state entities that you should follow our lead. I think this would be something you would want to know,
right,
and have it documented. And this is something that's definitely worthy of being talked about, especially by gun violence organizations and all this. And frankly, we're the only ones that are looking at it, and that shouldn't be that way.
Right. And it's a difficult thing to talk about, but you have to talk about it. It has to be discussed.
It's real. It's raw. And everybody's talking about gun violence on school campuses. And right in front of your nose, you have 28 cases.
And this is something that probably you didn't really hear about, except for like over the last 20 years or so. I mean, when I went to school, I never remember anybody having a gun or anybody even talking about having a gun.
I mean, that's a great question. I don't know when this phenomenon started, but I don't believe it would be interesting if you go back and look at the different decades.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you had some school, but you didn't have it like we have now. And it's just kind of spiraled, and it's become vogue for students to have guns and have weapons.
Yeah, like it's to go on social media to post it, that kind of shows right there that it's, hey, I'm cool, or look at what I can do, or look how bad I am.
Social media is the gift and the not gift.
Boy, isn't that true?
It opens up everything for you because it's right there, and at the same time, people are looking, make a name for themselves, and this is, look how many of these things are live streamed.
Right.
When they're going around doing that. So,
and you've got people that they don't care how they're famous. They just want to be famous. If it's through infamy, that's fine. Right. It's like I think we live in a society where with the whole social media, everybody can have a YouTube channel, and everybody wants to be
go on TikTok or whatever you want to call it on this. But, this is 28. We're in the second week in November. So, the list is going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And I'll continue to put it out there, and hopefully somebody will take this seriously before something happens. Yeah,
let's hope so. And be sure to tune in tonight for tonight's Breaking Bond at 9:00 on tonight's 9:00 newscast. We're looking at a defendant who he was on bond for a murder that happened here last year.
He was on bond for murder, got a lot of attention. So he's on what I would call a minimal bond for murder. He's out on bond, and I guess he decides he just doesn't want to hang in Harris County, despite having an ankle monitor on him. And that's a very good point, because I have not seen that charged, and that should be charged. And I need to find out why he hasn't been charged.
Yeah, because that's the law now.
Correct. So whoever is in charge of keeping up with him, you need to file charges, because I'm coming after you.
It's now against the law to tamper with or destroy
your ankle monitor. And, well, I don't know. I guess I'm assuming he did, because but that's a good question.
But he goes to Kerrville
and what did he do? He tried to rob ATM?
Somebody servicing an ATM machine.
Yep. So
It's pretty crazy.
And wait until you see his mugshot.
Right.
You're not going to believe it. So
Right.
there's no elections tonight. There's no baseball. There's no nothing. So there's no reason for you not to tune in.
Oh, that's right. Watch tonight's Breaking Bone at 9. Thank you so much for watching our live stream, and be kind to yourself and everyone else.